and welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Malek and psychic medium and demonologist Jennifer Malek as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptozoology, aliens and UFOs, theology, metaphysics, and conspiracy theories, with the top analysts and experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, if it's unusual or mysterious, if it's bizarre or creepy and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, then it's Paraversal Universe Radio. Now here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer, with Paraversal Universe Radio.
Hello everyone, welcome to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited and the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek.
Hello everyone.
And hello to everybody in the IRN chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. IRNchat.com is the link for the chat room, so come join us there. Since childhood, Don Young had visions and dreams that only could be explained as supernatural insight. Tonight's categories are cryptozoology and paracryptozoology. Tonight's guest is cryptozoologist, Iroquois shaman, tracker, and herbalist Donald Young, author of the book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey. We have that book here. It's a really big, thick book. Pretty impressive, I must say. He's been on Monster Quest, Mysterious Encounters, Coast to Coast, TV and radio shows, 15 years with the BFRO, Bigfoot Research, the Bigfoot Research Organization, and now he is a member of the NWPS as well. We'll bring him on in just a sec. Jen will be taking your questions from the chat room tonight. If you have anything for Donald, just ask, and Jen will pass that along. Are you ready, Jen?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, let's bring him on. Donald, are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am, and hello, everyone.
Hello, thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on.
I'm glad to be here.
For those who don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born in northern Wisconsin, a small logging, not really a town, but a little logging village called Lugerville, just on the outskirts of Phillips, in between Phillips and Park Falls, Wisconsin. At the young age, I started instruction from a family friend, Ben Standing Crow, which was an Iroquois shaman. I had visions, a lot of visions in my childhood, and that led him to believe that I could be someday a great shaman, so he started to take me under his wing. And by the time, probably, I'd say I was 23, 24 years old, something like that, when I completed his instruction. And I became a third high staff shaman under the False Face Society. And I've had multiple visions in mind about the Genosko or the Sasquatch. I've also had countless sightings and encounters throughout my life, starting when I was a child, of both the different types that are out there, both the physical and the energy forms of the Sasquatch. Took me 4 years to write a book about my life story, and I titled it Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey. Well, that's about it.
Yeah, we have that book here, like I said, and it's big, it's thick, it's got, and you got a lot of impressive pictures in here, of various things. One that was, go ahead.
A lot of the pictures in there are stills from actual videos that I've captured. Like there's the one out there that is the baby Bigfoot, which stunned both the skeptics, the scientific world, and other Bigfoot groups. They all pretty much freaked out over that one.
That's the of the different thermal images I've seen.
Yes, yes.
Sasquatch. That is very impressive. It's clear. You know.
Also, with the when I was with the BFRO, I got what they consider the very first ever thermal image of a possible Bigfoot. They call it a Bigfoot. I call it possible Bigfoot, because even though you can see it running off bipedally, you know, I don't know, I was deep woods, so it wasn't a person, but I don't know, unless I trip over them and land on them, I'm not exactly going to say it was positively a Sasquatch.
How did you get involved with the BFRO?
Well, that was from my first sighting I had during a gun deer season. I was out on a road next to my house called Mount Peely, and I usually sneak up to the road and hide in the ditch, looking back or looking down both sides, because usually a deer will stand in the road. And when I looked down towards the big hill where there's a water hole, I seen something there, and I got into the middle of the road more and looked at it with a scope, and at first it looked like a black bear, just hunched over, you know, messing around by the water hole. And then a car on the main highway in back of me went by, and the thing stood up. You know, it's still looking like a bear, you know, because they will stand on two legs. And it was apparently alerted by the car. So when I looked through the scope, I seen the long arms. I seen, because I had I can't remember what the scope's power was, but it was out there. And I got up pretty close with the scope, and I could see facial features. But then it must have seen me standing there in blaze orange, and with 3 bounds, it took off to the side of the road. Well, I reported all this to the BFRO, and they came out with investigators and a scientist from a university. They looked it over real good. They took samples of the mud where it jumped and everything like that, and measured the distance of 12 feet that it jumped. And from there, they had an expedition. I got to meet and become real good friends with the BFRO's main sponsor, which was Wallace Hersom. He's still to this day a very good friend of mine. But yeah, and then from there I did work for them. I worked as a tracker, a wildlife specialist. They'd call me in if someone wasn't sure, or they weren't sure whether it was a known animal or a Sasquatch. I would come there, look at the tracks. If it was a possible Sasquatch, I'd track it as far as I possibly could. I've been with them for quite a long time. I can't even remember. I think it was since 2005, something like that. I'm not sure. And, you know, I kind of distanced myself from them because of certain remarks made by a couple of the VFRO high members. which was one of the remarks, were that they believe that all Native American beliefs in the Sasquatch are just bogus, and that I took that as a massive insult. So I just distanced myself from them, doing my own research. That's how I was with them.
And you were considered for the show too, right? At one point, and then they.
Say that again. Say again.
You were considered for their show, Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah. I was. Matt was going to have me as one of the 4, and I considered it, but then I turned it down. It was just after. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. Yeah, it's too much of a publicity show that there's not very much research as I can see going on.
Right. And you were on Monster Quest. And
yes, I was on Monster Quest several episodes. They had me on there as a wildlife specialist, a tracker, a witness, and I was in one episode with Doug Hychek, Dr. Greg Bobinek, and the cameraman Ivan, and we were looking through certain areas of the forest and that, and we found a bedding ground. We found some hair. Good amount of hair. It took us quite a few hours off of camera to search these beds, and we finally found hairs that were in the range of anywhere from 3 to 6 inches in length. Well, they sent it to a lab or a hair analyst, and he came back saying that it was brown bear. Well, I got enraged over that, and I called up Doug, and he says, well, nothing we can do about it. That's what he says it is. Well, I'm in Wisconsin. There are no brown bear. There are no grizzly. Once in a while, we will have what is called a cinnamon bear. That's a black bear with the very tips of their hair has a reddish tint to it, but the rest of the hair is still black. So for him to say, and they don't have any hair that's 6 inches long. So that was, I believe anyway, that was a cover-up. They got evidence, and they basically just said it was a brown bear. Yeah. So.
Establishment narrative.
Yeah.
Now that same episode, because we were talking before, and you had brought up something really interesting that we found amazing. And that was the same episode, actually, the werewolf in Wisconsin.
Yeah, that was the other thing. When Doug came out and he contacted me for that episode, he wanted to do the reenactment of where I had the territorial tree shake with one, and he wanted to do the scene on the Mount Peely Road. So I figured, okay, we can do all this. So we did all the reenactments, and then he left, and then later on he had an interview at Dr. Bemenick's office, and he started to talk about werewolves. Well, I didn't see any of this until the show actually aired. He started to talk about werewolves. Then they had Linda Godfrey on there talking about the Bray Road and stuff like that. Next thing I know, when the show comes out, they're characterizing my sighting into the category of dogmen and werewolves. And so that was another strike against it from them. So it mainly with that I started to shun away from the meat.
The average person spends hours a week at the grocery store, but you're not an average person, are you? There's a better way to get fresh groceries, and it's called Fresh Direct. Shop for just picked fruit and vegetables, custom cut meat and seafood, freshly made meals and meal kits, all your favorite brands, plus hundreds of weekly deals. Order Fresh Direct anytime, anywhere, and get the freshest groceries delivered to your door. Use code PLAYLIST to get $25 off your first order of $99 or more. Visit freshdirect.com or download the app today.
Media, because I'm trying to do real research here, and they just turn everything around.
I could see that. I do. And, that's, I remember watching that episode, and I remember the two things about the story you just told. One was the tree shaking. I remember in the episode when they had mentioned that, I thought, that's odd. I've never heard tree shaking in werewolf or dogman reports. Not that they wouldn't do it.
What that was is it was simply a territorial dispute between a physical Sasquatch and me. I did something wrong. They got mad, or he got mad and warned me, and I got out of there rather quick. What happened is basically during the season, I was sitting up on a ridge. I drank a lot of coffee. I had to go and take a leak. So I went probably 50 feet or so into the woods off the power line trail that I was hunting. Yeah, I took a leak on a little tree out there, a little maple. I came back out to my stand, sat down, poured some more coffee. At the bottom of the hill, I seen the bottom ankle, like a part of the foot, and a buttocks walking in to the same side that I just went in. It's probably, 100 yards or so from me down the hill. At first I thought it was a bear. And 15 minutes, 20 minutes pass. I hear some huffing off to my right, where I just came out of. Now, within probably, a minute after the huffing, I noticed that the top of a tree start to whip back and forth. And I mean, it wasn't just a little bit of a twitching here and there. That thing was whipping so violently that you could hear the top of this tree slapping the ground, and then as it went the other way would slap the ground. And this was a little maple tree that basically was, I'd say at the base, at least 3 inches in diameter. So this ain't no little twig. So I got out of there real quick. I left my thermos, left my binoculars there, grabbed the rifle, took off running, got to the vehicle, went home. I realized I forgot everything there, went back the next day. Went back there the next day, and the safety was off of the rifle. I snuck into the woods, and the same tree that I took the leak on was the same tree that this thing was very aggressively thrashing around. So it was what I consider a territorial battle. I basically pissed on its pissing ground.
Right, you pissed on its pissing tree or whatever. that's and the other thing I remember is watching that episode, and I remember this distinctly from the first time I saw this. And this was the other thing I thought was odd, was when you said, I didn't shoot because my first impression, or at least on one of your sightings, was that it was a guy in a monkey suit.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my very first sighting on the Mount Peely Road. When it stood there, and I didn't look through the scope. I thought for sure, okay, this is a bear. When I looked through the scope and seen the arms at the side, not in front like a bear, and it's standing there and then run off, I could have easily squeezed the round off and hit it. But, it looked way too much like a human. So there was no way I was going to pop a shot off at it. But then when I got down there and I looked at the water hole where it jumped, that was a 12-foot span, and it did not touch the water.
Wow.
Just it hit the other shoreline and sunk into the soft shore, but it did not touch the water at all. That's when I knew it wasn't no human. But I also know then it was not a bear, because a bear will not run off on its hind legs, unless you'll see them once in a while on a program or something where they're walking around the streets, and I seen one bear on TV or something walking around. But that's because their front legs are injured and they have no choice.
Right.
They still can't jump like this thing they did. At most, they can probably hop about 2 feet when they on just their hind legs.
Yeah.
I have a question for you from the chat room, and this question comes from Max. Do you think, as I do, that the governments are covering up Sasquatch and other zoological creatures as they do UFOs?
I believe so. I believe that the U.S. government knows of it, just like the Russian government also knows of them. That goes all the way back to that one incident where those hikers were attacked and killed up in I believe it was the Himalayas. They know all about it. It's just that they cannot, even with the smallest result would be a mass panic. If all of a sudden it came down to the reality that the government said, okay, we know for sure it's out there, there would be mass panic. Even seasoned hunters would be looking over their shoulder when they go into the woods. And they don't want that. They don't want trigger-happy people going out into the woods and blasting at everything they see. That would be extremely dangerous. You would have trigger-happy, scared people running everywhere.
Are you familiar with David Paulides' Missing 411?
No.
Okay. That was about people that go missing in state parks.
Okay, I had heard something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had done some research, and he found that it was not only quite a few people, but the state parks were denying him information.
Okay. Yeah.
That he would ask for, and so he would have to go.
I remember hearing something on that order.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, that's kind of the same thing.
Well, a lot of the missing persons, even though the forestry department don't want to admit it, because that would basically show negligence on their side. A lot of the people that are out there have fallen off a cliff. They got lost and killed or something by an animal. The forestry department don't want to admit that, because then they would be under a lot of scrutiny for negligence. Why can't you find them in your own park? You've got all this equipment. You got helicopters. You got search and rescue parties. You got dogs and everything. You can't find them. Okay, but then there's the other things. You got the stories that go way back into the early 1800s, when the one guy got pulled right out of his tent, I believe, and dragged into a Sasquatch cave. The only way he got away from them was his little can of snuff. He basically opened it. The Sasquatch was curious. They came up, they grabbed it, they ate it, they started getting sick. He took off running. So there's the possibility of that also. I would also, it's reaching, but I would also say that maybe there is some kind of portal that could be out there, a different dimension like the energy Sasquatch are using, that people stumble across. So they don't tell anyone about it. They're brought through it. I don't know. It's weird.
I have another question for you from the chat room. This one comes from Heidi. Have you ever heard of Bigfoot being seen indoors?
I've heard it. Never talked to a witness though. Yeah, I've heard it where just like a bear. I haven't heard of them manifesting through the energy form into a building. I have heard of it with shapeshifters. But yes, a Sasquatch can get in your house through a window. They're a lot smarter than a bear, and a bear can make it in your front door if he wants. He can make it in a screen door. A Sasquatch has hands. He can easily walk in. And the energy form, if he wants, they can just walk right through the door or appear right in your house. But there's no reason for him to go in there, you know.
So we got to ask, are you pro-kill or no-kill?
I am no-kill against it. For a couple reasons. One, like it's just I don't believe in it. It's not just because of the Sasquatch. It's any endangered or unknown, undiscovered animal. You don't know how many there are. Like Matt, he'll say, "Oh, there's so many of them." Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't believe so. You know, if you shoot one. Okay, now say it's only a breeding couple for 1,000 miles. One breeding couple, you just shot one of them. Okay, if it's anything like a human, you know, it takes quite a few years before the breeding couple can release the young one to be on its own. So they're not gonna jeopardize and grow the pod any bigger than they have to. So yeah, I'm fully against the shooting of it. There's plenty of ways if people want DNA from the physical form, they don't have to kill it. They can get hair samples. I showed you one way of collecting DNA through the hair when we were on this trip over in Drummond. The use of a mousetrap.
Yes, and that was impressive. In fact, when we come back after a commercial, we can get into that. Yeah, that was really cool.
Okay. And with that, it is time for our first commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network.
Welcome back to Paraversal Universe on the Inception Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek, and we're chatting with Donald Young, Cryptozoologist and Iroquois Shaman. But before we bring him back on, we'd like to take a minute and thank everyone who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphics art designer Lawrence D. Meza, announcer William Pritchard, music by Matt Stens, producer Mike M.J. Lucas, and of course to God for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with you all. We also have 3 Paraversal Universe like pages on Facebook. Also check out Jennifer Malek, Psychic Demonologist, Jennifer's like page. And of course the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited like page. And we have 2 group pages worth noting. The Lake Monstrosities, which is the largest group page on Facebook for aquatic mysteries and lake monsters. And finally, Ultimate Conspiracies, which is pretty much self-explanatory. If you have any questions for a guest, go to irnchat.com to go to our live IRN chat room, where you can post questions and make comments. Jen will pass those along. And remember to catch us next week as we talk to parasociologist and cryptid researcher David Keelman, author of Dogman Is Real, The Cry in the Night. Let's see. This segment is brought to you by Lucas Wellness and the UFO Wisconsin Research Team. Okay, let's bring our guest back on. Do you think Sasquatch use tools of any kind?
Oh, definitely. Any primate, especially the physical form of the Sasquatch, would most definitely use simple tools, like for grubbing or chasing a squirrel or a rodent out of a log. He'd probably bang a stick around on one end or use it as a digging tool to get grubs out from under a stump. It's even the simplest thing, a rock, clacking two rocks together, or
I was just going to mention
or a club, and they use tools. They're not just not.
The average person spends hours a week at the grocery store, but you're not an average person, are you? There's a better way to get fresh groceries, and it's called Fresh Direct. Shop for just picked fruit and vegetables, custom cut meat and seafood, freshly made meals and meal kits, all your favorite brands, plus hundreds of weekly deals. Order Fresh Direct anytime, anywhere, and get the freshest groceries delivered to your door. Use code PLAYLIST to get $25 off your first order of $99 or more. Visit freshdirect.com or download the app today.
They're not sophisticated tools like bows and arrows or spears or anything like that.
right.
It's basically extremely crude tools, similar to what the chimpanzees would use to. They've seen chimpanzees already taking little tiny straw, like sticks, and poking them into the holes of termites to bring them out. So it's just relatively simple tools like that.
You were mentioning the rocks clacking, and
Okay.
right before we went to break, we were talking. You had recently joined the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, and we are honored and grateful to have you as a member. And you took us out on a Bigfoot call a couple days ago, which was it was impressive. Credible witness. We both thought he was credible, well spoken, and that was one of the things that he reported. And I was impressed with the scientific research you were doing, the soil analysis, and those kind of things, and hanging back to when you were talking about DNA, and we don't have to kill any animal for DNA. There are different ways to go about it. I know some people put them spikes on the ground so Bigfoot will step on it.
That's horrid.
That is
was
horrid.
In a Monster Quest series. They put screws through a board, and then when the Sasquatch stepped on it, that was another incident where the evidence just disappeared.
Yeah. Yep.
They had a full bloody footprint right in the middle of the board with all the nails and all the screws. Tissue and hair was on it, but they never found out anything on it.
But what you did, you hung a mouse trap. Explain that.
Okay, what I did was I took a regular spring-loaded wooden mouse trap with the spring on it, drilled a hole through one end so you can tie a string on it, and then you hang it from a tree at least human head height. That way, if a deer or a bear or anything wander underneath it, they're not going to set it off. Anything that's taller now, even a human walking through, is going to set it off. And if it's got fur or hair, it's going to cling onto the hair. Along where the spring snaps the wood, I took rubber cement and put it there. So when the spring hits it and the hair gets caught in between there, as the animal or Sasquatch moves away, it's going to pull free and it's going to leave either one or a bunch of strands of hair there, with hopefully the follicle still intact. That way it can be collected later and sent to legitimate hair analysis.
I have two questions.
Or DNA. Right. Go ahead.
I have two questions for you from the chat room. The first one comes from Max. Are you catch and release or no capture?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Well, it would definitely be catch and release. Anything that's out there, whether Sasquatch or just plain wild animal, you can't keep them in captivity once they've grown. As a baby, like I've raised countless wild orphans, you can do that. But if they're a grown adult, the stress factor that is in a captured and adult animal is so high that within a couple days to a week or so, they wouldn't eat. They would just wither away. So you could have, just like any tranquilized animal or caged animal, you can do your test real quick, take a blood sample, take a hair sample, check for any kind of diseases, stuff like that. Maybe even put a monitor or a tracker unit on the Sasquatch and release them right back. But do not keep it because, well, it'd be kind of like the movie King Kong. Yeah.
Okay.
It could go the wrong way, too.
That is very true. Okay, my next question to you comes from Tom. Do you also believe that Sasquatch can manifest themselves?
Yes, the energy form. The energy form, they say there's a few different types. There's the physical forms, which vary in size and shape. You get the large ones up north, the small ones down south, or in warmer climates. Then there's the guides or the forest spirits. Those are the ones that can manifest. They are the forest protectors or helpers. They help the physical Sasquatch and other animals out there to avoid danger or human contact. You can always tell the energy Sasquatch that would manifest by the red eyes. If you see one during the daytime, which is rare, but if you see one during the daytime or at night, we'll say at night, and you don't have a flashlight or there's no external light whatsoever, no illumination, and the eyes are glowing, well, that's not a physical animal. No physical animal out there has illuminating eyes without artificial illumination or any kind of external light because of the reflection.
Right.
So yeah, there are the ones that will manifest.
We've thought about that too, with just the paracryptozoology and how some when people say, well, they had red eyes, and it's like, well, are you talking about reflective red eyes, or was it actually a red light, or something of that nature? Because they're two different things.
Yes. There is the refractive, and there is the just basic illumination, which the illumination would be the spirit form. But if you shine a light into an animal's eyes, you have reflective. It's totally different. That would be the physical form. The physical Sasquatch can, you will get eye glow, just like with a human. It'll be a dark amber to a dark red in glow. But that's the one with, if you shine a flashlight or a camera flash or something like that, or the headlights of a car, you'll get that. But if you're out in the woods, you don't have any flashlight, there's no external light, and you see glowing eyes, you're witnessing the spiritual form.
And I'm really looking forward, coming up this summer, to doing WPS with Donald's help, of course. We're going to do a paracryptozoological expedition this year. We're not going to say exactly where or exactly when. Obviously, we don't want people showing up and messing with us. But
there's no worry about that out in that area. It's so secluded. If a person even tried to find us, we'd have to send out a search party because they'd get lost.
And I believe that 100%. Just going out with you a couple of days ago, that was quite a hike. We were really.
I'll tell you what your wife Jen out there noticed really opened my eyes, and it totally freaked out Brad too when she noticed that spirit out there, and also felt or noticed the forest spirit. And then that guy said that there was the grave out there. My God, that blew my mind.
That blew my mind too. I mean, I tell you about Jen, and now we're talking about her like she's not here, but for real, as her husband, she does see spirit a lot. When we go out, and and she tells me this, and I hear it a lot. And but when you go in the middle of nowhere, I mean, literally, we're talking hours and hours and hours of just going to the middle of nowhere, and then for her to say, there's a spirit here, there's a spirit here, it's following, and then the guy we're with, we never met him before, we don't know him from anywhere else, he doesn't know us, he gets these goosebumps on his arms, and he goes, older or young spirit? And she goes, old. And she points to where she saw him. And he says, I didn't tell any of you guys this, but me and my father found a grave out here, a grave marker, right where she pointed, right? General area. So he's like, I got to show you this so you believe me. And this up. So, we ended up hiking over there, and sure enough, there's this marker in literally the middle of nowhere of this.
Yeah, and where it was, she couldn't see it because that was 100 yards or so through thick forest that you can't see. You can't see nothing. We had to drive around the swamp or whatever to get there. It was quite amazing.
Yeah.
There's one question on there to go back to that one. The one guy is asking about telepathy. Yes, they do have telepathy. If you can channel your own mind when you're in the woods, it starts out very simple. When you're out in the woods and you feel like you're being watched, just sit down, relax next to sit down next to a tree, completely relax yourself, and let everything enter your mind. The sound of the wind, everything. And yes, you will hear them. They will start to communicate. It won't be words. They'll communicate with images. You'll see images. And that's what they want you to see. So yes, they do communicate. Okay.
All right. Sudan from chat has a question for you. Some people have noticed many things that are paranormal, like space, aliens, etc., respond to prayers, indicating they are not what they seem. Have you had any reports of this sort of thing with Bigfoot?
I am not sure I understood the question. I know in myself when I've had ceremonies, like out on the bog, it's called a calling ceremony, is where you call in the spirits. There's also a ceremony called the blood ceremony, where that one is basically a test. But when you do these calling ceremonies, you will have the spirit form come right to you. I'm not sure whether or not this would be classified as religious or anything. It's a ceremony. It's a Native American ceremony, so I suppose there's a hint of religious. It's more or less just a spirituality more than it is religion. I don't know if that answered the question or not.
Answered the question. Some people used to call the Bigfoot mountain devils. Not understanding really what they were. Of course, seeing one. Me and my friend, when I was in my late 20s, we had a Bigfoot cross the highway in front of us, and that was actually the catalyst to starting the Paranormal Society. And that was bright. That was in the middle of the day. It was real hot out. It was real hot out, and we were in a car. And I crossed the road, and my buddy stopped the car right where it crossed. And he's like, should we go in there after it? And I'm like, are you crazy? You see how big it was? It'll kill us, And we didn't go in, but I could see where people would be real scared of something like that. And
definitely, that's how I judge a lot of witnesses' credibility. If a witness says to me when I ask, well, how did you feel when you seen this creature? They go, well, I didn't let it bother me. Well, he's lying. When you see one of these, whether in the physical or spirit form, and you say that you weren't scared, it didn't bother you, or anything like that, you're lying. You didn't see nothing. If you're in the woods or in the dark or in the daylight and you see something that's standing 8 feet tall, covered in hair, looks like a giant androided giant in a damn monkey suit, I guarantee you're going to be scared. So anyone that says that they're scared when they seen it, they're credible.
Yeah, I agree.
Really quick, what Sudan meant by the question was that, have you ever heard of anybody running into a Bigfoot and using a prayer and saying Jesus' name and having the Bigfoot react in a way where it would flee?
Well, I guess that would be like, are there evil Bigfoot out there? Maybe that's another.
I've heard it, but not with Jesus. I'm sure it has happened with me. The native chant. You close your eyes. You say the chant. You open your eyes. He's gone. So I suppose it's all in who believes in what. If you believe in the white man's Jesus, then that will work for you. It's all in what you believe in. If you believe in Buddha and you pray to Buddha, that'll work.
Okay. This question also comes from Max. I live in the middle Appalachian Mountains, and there are many things out there in the mountains that one can hear but cannot see. Do you think this is forest spirit? There were many Cherokee in this area.
It could be, but remember that a forest spirit is not always a Sasquatch. That can be a spirit animal. That can be a spirit squirrel, as small as that, all the way up to the spirit bear. It's most likely if you hear the sound and it's right next to you, but there's nothing there. Oh, that's definitely a spirit. Or a spirit animal right next to you.
And we're talking about the when I say paracryptozoology, I guess defining it as an animal or a cryptid with a power or ability that humans may not possess or don't possess, and whether that be portals or invisibility or mind speak or, any number of things. It seems to me that as time goes on, and I wonder your take on this, as time goes on, it seems to me that more and more people are starting to give the idea or the notion of paracryptozoology a serious look. Is that an accurate statement?
They have to, because look at how many years scientists and cryptozoologists have been looking for the Sasquatch and have come up with nothing. Yet, more and more people are seeing stuff out there, like the glowing eyes without illumination, that is impossible. You're seeing stuff out there that is not in any scientific book. So they have to start looking in non-scientific methods. You know, they have to start looking at the shamans, the old cultures of what they believed in, cave drawings, etc.
We have 5 minutes left. And before we go, we would like for you to share links to where people can find and buy your book, and any Facebook groups, any YouTube pages, anything at all you wish to share.
All right. Well, if a person wants an interesting group, all they'd have to do is go on Facebook and type in Kindred Forest. It should lead them to it. My book's website, on the other hand, it's a very long site. So instead, I'm just going to give everyone my main website, my business website, which has a link on one of the pages for my book's website. And that is http, I think they're, whatever, 2 dots, colon?
Semicolon.
Okay. http, the 2 dots, / replures.webs.com. And that is, it's spelled replures.webs.com. And, that should be, I guess, easy enough. And that's the other thing, is I started to do a thing with getting a different publisher that fell through, so it's going to be about 5 days before all the books and the ebooks go back online for anyone willing or wanting to purchase one.
Awesome. Donald, thank you so much for sharing your Friday evening with us.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
Oh, it was all right. It was fun.
And thank you to everybody in chat for hanging out with us as well. And thank you to all of you for the great questions.
Yes, we get awesome questions here for sure.
From awesome people.
So next week, parasociologist David Keelman. Tune in for that. To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough.
average person spends hours a week at the grocery store, but you're not an average person, are you? There's a better way to get fresh groceries, and it's called Fresh Direct. Shop for just picked fruit and vegetables, custom cut meat and seafood, freshly made meals and meal kits, all your favorite brands, plus hundreds of weekly deals. Order Fresh Direct anytime, anywhere, and get the freshest groceries delivered to your door. Use code PLAYLIST to get $25 off your first order of $99 or more. Visit freshdirect.com or download